Dumb. Cool.
Weird.
Podcast. So this is a movie that we were trying to find another Vincent Price movie, but we couldn't find it. So this is the torture chamber of Dr. Sadism. And it's not as cool as you might think it sounds.
It sounded a lot cooler on paper. Are we recording?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. Christopher Lee was in this movie as the Dr. Sadism. Yep. And, he's arrested by the authorities because, he's been killing 12 women. And the last one got away. And I love that look in her face when they're asked her. It's like, oh, you had to get out of that horrid place. And she looked like she was zoned out thinking about it. Like, wasn't that bad. It was kind of kinky.
Yep. And I love how she was talking to the guy it looked like she was talking to the guy from Pocahontas.
Yep.
What was his name? Radcliffe or whatever?
Yeah, Radcliffe.
Yeah, looked just like that guy. And then, except not as fat.
Yeah, Radcliffe was fat.
Yeah, and which was kind of funny. But anyway, because people were starving back then. But anyway,
the diabetes.
Yeah. But basically, they put an iron mask on this guy. They pull him outside and they tie his feet and his hands and his hands and his feet to like horses, and then they just rip his arms off.
And then the executioner cuts his head off.
Yep. Extra.
Make sure he's really not coming back.
But really, that raises a lot of questions because later on in the movie, we see him show up again.
Yeah,
and he's not decapitated or anything. They didn't have to put him together.
Well, remember he actually had all of his parts in that coffin. Like his servant found all of the parts because his servant, by the way, he has a servant, an Irishman, who is like severely Irish, severely British, severely bad teeth.
Yep.
Yeah, he found all of his body parts and put them in a glass case together.
I don't doubt that.
I mean, he can't die, so he had 30 years to do it.
Yep.
So, story anyways is that, this guy who doesn't know anything about his past, he's a lawyer, is running through Europe, runs across this, this story, this festival about Dr. Sadism being put apart. Yep. And his name is Count Regula, by the way.
Regula.
Count Regula is what Dr. Sadism's actual name is. And it turns out that this lawyer and this other wealthy lady are related to the judge and the lady who survived the massacre at Count Regula's home. So they go on this little expedition to follow this invitation that they received from a bummy old man with one leg. And they run it. They go on this trip, and there's this guy who's dressed up as a priest.
Yep.
Turns out he's not a priest, by the way. He's actually just a highwayman. And when they finally get to Count Regula's home,
well, don't forget not to mention the bodies everywhere.
Oh yeah, for some reason there's a trail of bodies and ring wraiths.
Yeah, and don't forget to mention that the guy driving them in the carriage was actually had a heart condition.
Yeah, he was an Irishman with a heart condition.
Yep, and then you had the.
It's getting to the best parts, by the way.
were you going to get to the vagabond and the?
Oh my God, the vagabond
and the smoking, burnt down house.
Who turned out to be the Irishman?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Who was the servant of Count Regula?
Yep.
I love how the priest is like, he's deaf and mute. No, he's deaf and dumb. I know how to sign language. And he starts just like putting up gang signs.
And the guy turns around and says, "I don't care."
Yeah.
But get to the good parts.
Anyway, so the good part here is like when the ring wraiths appear.
Yep.
And they kill the coach driver to that lady. Just murders him.
Yep.
And then the ring wraiths die when you get further down the trail. Mm-hmm. They're killed outside of Count Regula's house and hung in trees with all the other bodies of shitty mannequins and such.
Yep. Shitty mannequins, by the way.
Really shitty mannequins. Mm-hmm. But what was great, though, is when we finally get in there, it's like a haunted house. It's like a really shitty haunted house. All right? The Irishman is in there, and he's like, "Oh, you're going to have your dinner." And then he's giving them acid-laced wine.
Yep. Melts the whole fucking part of the table.
Yeah, the priest pulls out his guns and reveals that he's actually a highwayman.
Yep. And then we go down to the torture chamber.
Yeah, we go down to the torture chamber. it doesn't skip, by the way. We also get to see all, the science of Dr. Sadism.
Yeah, because we always talk about how like these old movies love to have just some kind of obscure beakers and bubbling and shit,
in a one cauldron, like structure. And, and he's like, we're going to get the medicine from my master.
Oh, don't forget to mention the measurements in this movie.
Oh my god, yeah. So we'll get to that in a second, but they bring back Count Regula, who then throws our main protagonist in a pit. With a pendulum.
Yep.
In it.
Been here before.
And a lot of nightmarish art, like pictures painted on the walls, by the way.
Yep.
And I love how they're making this woman watch his execution, and they're like, "Oh, you can get her out of here," and they're like fucking with her. Clearly, they're like, "You can get him out of here. You just have to go through this door." Sends her to a pit where there's like just snakes inside of it. The Irishman saves her after she faints because she's a woman. Mm-hmm. And they bring her back. And this is the funniest part, right? They could have just had the woman laying down on the table, but they have this really shitty mannequin that doesn't even look like her on the table. And Christopher Lee, Count Regulus, tells his servant, I need you to cut her throat and jam this tube down it. That was the dialogue.
And then he's like, well, how much time do we have left? And he's like,
look at the hourglass. You've got 1,000, you have 3,000 heartbeats, me lord. And then it's like, what is that? What is that? 5,000 winks? What's that in minutes, peasant?
What is that, 500 lashes of the whip?
It's because you have 3,000 heartbeats, sir.
Dude, I hate British people because they're the ones that came up with this shitty system that we have in this country, dude.
He weighs 30 stone. Oh my god. He's a massive monster, a creature to be seen at the circus.
We're just like, what the fuck does that even mean? Basically what we're saying is the metric system's superior to that fucking British system.
And what we have over here is still... Everyone's better than the British.
Well, the only reason I know the metric system so well is because I was originally going to be like in a scientific field, so I had to learn it,
And you know why I know the metric system? Weightlifting.
Yeah, there you go. It's there.
It's the only reason it matters.
It's so bad, dude.
The only time that Americans and Europeans can really get together is like by being able to find caliber in weapons and guns, lifting weights, and food measurement. Yep. Other than that, we look at the British like, look at these fucking peasants living in the past with their stones.
Yep.
And their pounds and their
3,000 heartbeats. That is the funniest thing I've ever heard.
I know, right? But I love how he's dangling that cross, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, so no, the cross. Because the lawyer throws a rock at the pendulum, which throws it off course, which then cuts off all of the rope that's tying him to the floor.
For whatever reason.
Which technically, like you said, right, that probably would have just done that. Would have
done that anyway.
He'd done it anyways and he would have been fine.
Yeah. Because all he had to do was kind of lift his chest up because the rope was crossing on his chest region. So if he just lifted his chest up a little bit, it probably would have cut the rope.
Yeah, so they really fucked up that planning altogether. And... afterwards he's dangling this cross left and right because that was the woman's cross. And the fucking highwayman, the priest, used a peg leg to jam it into the stone so he can get out of his prison cell.
Because it was a pit.
Yeah, it was a pit.
And we're back to the pit, the pendulum again.
Exactly. It was full circle. This was a movie probably built for Vincent Price because it's also an Edgar Allan Poe story, which has us thinking that Edgar...
and it's actually kind of funny. The lead actor actually kind of looked like Vincent Price a little bit.
Yes, actually.
Could have actually easily been his son.
Exactly. And the thing is, he after his hourglass runs out, the guy throws this lawyer guy, he throws the cross into the science pit, That's all I could really say. The science cauldron with all the beakers and everything just explodes, right? And Christopher Lee starts walking up to him with an axe and just suddenly dies because his body's expired. He ran out of the 33,000 heartbeats. So he just wasn't in the cards for him.
Yeah, and don't forget about all the hot babes that were like tied up and being tortured.
Yeah, which they were in a lot of
all
sexual possession.
Yeah, and they were all dead.
Which I'm pretty sure the old guy, the Irishman, was definitely fucking them because he was an undead creature too.
Yeah, and don't forget to mention the fact that they all turned into skeletons after he died too.
Yeah, for some reason their bodies didn't decay over 30 years.
Yeah, they just turned into skeletons.
It didn't make any sense. Neither did the ending part. So they tried to make it like a really happy-go-lucky ending. And, everyone's having, like, it looks like the two main characters are about to have sex in the back of this carriage. And, the servant wench and the highwaymen are at the top, driving the horse. Mm-hmm. And he just looks at her, kisses her, and he's like, "You got a funny face."
So sexy.
To be very fair, this movie was kind of outlandish and hard to follow.
Bro, this movie was way over the top.
No, it was too much. It was too much. At the end of the day, let's put it this way: if we had a scale at this, don't watch this movie. It's not memorable. So let's talk about dumb, cool, and weird.
All right. So what was dumb about this movie?
Everything, especially the measurement of time in which it took for him to complete his task. 3,000 heartbeats.
Yep, and that's pretty bad. I mean, that's kind of like when people were like, "Oh, it's 40 winks."
First off, they needed the guy's blood to complete the sacrifice, but they picked the longest possible way to have him executed, and then they fucked with that woman by making her like pass out, almost thinking she could save the guy. Like, why didn't you just kill both of them? That was dumb. And
well, what was cool?
None of it was cool. Other than, you know what? Actually, the ring wraiths. That was it.
That was the only cool thing.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, then we're about to get to the weird, and
the weird was the Irishman.
No, that scene where, like, okay, so to me, the weirdest part about the whole fucking movie is that scene where they first see him in that burnt out fucking building, and they have that cinema zoom lens, and they just like zoom in on him, and he's got that like stupid look on his face.
He's got like that shitty wizard look,
and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, and then I love how, like, first off, that motherfucker was wearing a mask. He was wearing a mask and makeup, and he didn't need to. No one was going to know what he looked like. Like, no one's ever seen this man in their entire lives. And he was wearing a disguise.
Yeah, it was a bad disguise, too.
Like, this movie was dumb.
Incredibly.
But you know what? It's not as dumb as King Kung Fu.
Nothing will ever be that dumb.
Oof. Batman Forever.
I don't know, man. I think Batman Forever is probably better than King Kung Fu. I mean, hell, I think Santa Claus Conquers the Martians is better than fucking King Kung Fu.
That was rough. That was a rough film.
It definitely is.
But, yeah, I mean, I really got nothing left on this one. This one was just... You know what? It was because it wasn't Vincent Price.
That's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, because, like, Vincent Price does all the Edgar Allan Poe movies. All I can think of is Edgar Allan Poe, drunk off of his ass, showed up to his editor, and his editor's like, I really got to clean this shit up. Like, he just started writing shit out here. I don't even know what he's doing anymore. You know, the man writes The Raven, it's a great hit, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's just writing weird shit. Imagine being like anyone who was reading Edgar Allan Poe back then, and they run into the pit, not the pit in the pencil, the torture chamber of Dr. Sadism.
Yep.
Like, what do you do with that? Everyone's like, oh my God, like, is he drunk?
Very.
Yeah. But, you know, that's about it.
Yep. Well, you want to sign us off?
Yeah. Stay sexy, Atlanta. We're going to go eat. I mean, we're going to go eat. Yeah.
Yep. And stay out of the fucking like torture chamber. Of
Yeah,
sadism.
don't follow Scary Irishmen.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
they will not. First off, they're ghouls. Apparently, that if you shoot them with the musket, they won't die. And
but if you want to watch a better movie that has sexier stuff in it, go watch Pit and the Pendulum.
yeah, Pit and the Pendulum was way sexier because it was Vincent Price.
Yep. Yeah.
Sayonara, bitches.
Thanks for checking out the Dumb Cool Weird podcast. We're a movie podcast now, so Movie Monday is every Monday about crappy movies from the 20th century. It's going to be great, folks. I can't wait to show y'all.